My 28-year-old male boyfriend told me, 23-year-old female, that we should get a prenup before we get married when he hasn't even proposed to me yet. I come from a very loving family. When I was a kid, though, we didn't have a luxurious life, but my dad made sure his children were the happiest and he worked very hard. My mom was always his biggest supporter. She married my dad when he was nothing, and today my dad came to a position where he is listed among the most elite businessmen in the city. It's all because of his hard work and my mom's support. And that's the type of marriage I want. I want a marriage where there is no question of divorce, just patience, hard work, and faith in God. My dad always told me to trust in my hard work and not have any liking or lust for money. He is the best example to show that money does not buy happiness, and hard work always pays off. I worked hard too, and by God's grace today, I'm a pilot, and so is my boyfriend. We both started our training together, so we have the same experience as well. My boyfriend believes that one day he will be a big businessman, but he doesn't really do anything to make that possible. Today, in his blind belief that one day he'll be rich, he told me that he doesn't want to lose all his money, which doesn't exist if we divorce in the future, so he wants a prenup. I told him to first propose. He said he can't until I agree to a prenup. I told him how ridiculous it was for him to think that I'm after his money, when in fact I have much more money than him. He says in the future, he'll have more. I said, let's think about it when you actually do have more money, and ended the conversation. Was I too arrogant? Should I sign the prenup? I honestly don't care for it, but the thought that I'm after his money is what hurt me. Update. So I spoke to my dad about this conversation I had with my boyfriend. Turns out, the prenup was actually my dad's idea. It seems my boyfriend discussed with my dad about expanding the logistics sector and had some really good plans. So my dad decided to let him take charge and handle logistics. Hence, a prenup would make sure things don't get ugly later on. My plan is to get married at 25 and continue flying. I don't know why my boyfriend didn't mention this conversation with my dad. I might have given an impression that my boyfriend is an idiot, but I don't mean to. He is smart and talented, but sometimes gives me half information which frustrates me. He never told me about the plans he had for the company, but only kept saying, he'll make a fortune one day. Update. Thank you for all your responses, guys. So last night was long and a miserable night, which marked the end of our relationship. I don't normally question my boyfriend, and especially if my dad is involved, I don't get involved. I trust my dad completely. He isn't what he is today, just like that. However, the fact that he hid a very important detail from me was bothering me so much, and I couldn't take it anymore. So I asked why didn't he tell me his plans? Why didn't he let me know about this deal? A little background about us, my boyfriend is the firstborn son of a religious leader in my community, and my parents always had a good impression of him, assuming he is a man of God. He has this passion and zeal to do something, but no resources. He did his master's in theoretical physics and studied about God in relation to science for years. He also loves working with cameras and has experience in the film industry as a DOP. He is a drone pilot as well. However, due to some poor investments, he lost the money he made. So he took several loans and finished his training along with me. A little about me, I'm my father's firstborn child, and I started working with him in the company when I was 15. I did it because I was interested in business. Then, at the age of 18, I started my own company. My dad wasn't really a fan of that idea given the risks involved. So in good spirit, he asked me to make it on my own, without his help. So I used my savings and loaned some money from my friends to start a business. I was also a national level athlete from ages 18 to 21. I started playing when I was 16. Female athletes have less competition in the country I live in, so I made it in 2 years. So even that helped in marketing my company since it was a sportswear line. Then I started a transportation company when I was 20. This company provided for all the oxygen cylinder and ventilator transport needs during the second wave of Infection 19. I started an NGO during the first wave, and by the second wave, my team was able to provide for 70,000 oxygen cylinders and 56,000 ventilators. We also arranged for ambulance services, hospital beds, and medical bills of patients who were struggling with finances. I even did a small art-based business during Infection 19, since everyone became an artist during that time. I made around $15,000 in 3 months doing that. So overall, I saved $85,000 by the time I turned 21 and started my flight training. I cleared all my exams in 6 months and started flying. This year in January, I got my CPL. And in February, I started flying for this private charter company, doing my rating right now. I'm sorted with my savings and income, and I will be turning 24 next month. Me and my boyfriend met when I was 19 through our parents, and we started dating. I fell in love with him and confessed it to him during our flight training. We both are waiting until marriage to have intimacy, and he helped me grow a deeper spiritual connection with God. Last night, I asked him as to why he hid it from me, and his response was because he felt less of a man. That being the man, he should be the one to provide and have savings. But instead, it's me having a steady income and tons of savings. He went on telling me how I'm a rich, snooty, butt-spoiled brat and run to daddy whenever I need something. He also told me that it was unfair he didn't have rich parents, and that is the only reason why he isn't rich. He expects me to be a stay-at-home mom. I didn't want to be, since I wanted to fly, and doesn't like that I'm still working. He went on a long, very hurtful rant, invalidating all the work I did and all my achievements. He went on invalidating my sports career as well, saying I would have never made it if Daddy didn't bribe my way through, which is not true. I heard all of that in silence, and after he was done, I told him, since he thinks all my success is meaningless just because my dad helped, he shouldn't be taking my dad's help as well. I told him to make it on his own, fulfill his dreams on his own, and broke up with him. I never involved myself in relationships earlier because I was afraid of heartbreaks. I don't know what got into me when I fell in love with this one. He was my first love and my first heartbreak. I was willing to be a traditional wife for him once we got married. That is how much I loved him. But he broke me into a million pieces. I'm just a nobody for him. Nothing that I did holds any value to him. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. A prenuptial agreement protects assets acquired before the marriage, so you need one way more than he does. Assets acquired during the marriage are thought to be equal, since one spouse supports the other to acquire said assets. So your boyfriend is a selfish idiot. He doesn't even have any damn assets. And he's saying that even when you're married, his work is his and his alone. Pretty much the opposite of what you know to be true. Girl, you can do better. Comment 2. A good prenup has been looked at by a lawyer from each party and has something in it for each party. Is that the case here? It's also usual that it protects assets that exist before the marriage. I'm not sure it is even possible to do what he is trying to do. Honestly, the prenup doesn't sound like the problem. It sounds like what you have there is a bit of a moron. That's the bigger problem. Now, for the update, thank you for sticking around for more of my story. After the breakup, I thought I'd find some peace, but life had other plans. My ex-boyfriend, let's call him Mr. X, decided he wasn't done with me yet. He went to my dad crying, begging for a second chance at the logistics project. My dad, ever the soft-hearted businessman, agreed, but with one condition. Mr. X had to apologize to me and make it right. I was furious when I found out. My dad, who I thought understood me, was giving Mr. X another chance? It felt like a betrayal. But then I saw an opportunity. If Mr. X wanted to prove himself, I'd make sure he really had to work for it. I took over the logistics project myself. I had the experience, after all, from my transportation company. I worked day and night, improving the efficiency, cutting costs, and bringing in new clients. The project was booming under my leadership, and Mr. X was left in the dust. Meanwhile, Mr. X's debts were catching up to him. The loans he took out for flight training were massive, and without my dad's support or a job, he was drowning. He came to me, asking for help, but I turned him away. I told him to figure it out on his own, just like he wanted me to be a stay-at-home wife and give up my dreams. But the real twist came when I found out about Mr. X's secret. He had been seeing another woman while we were together, someone from his father's congregation. It was a scandal waiting to explode, especially with his father's reputation as a religious leader. I could have exposed him, ruined his reputation and his father's, but I didn't. Instead, I went to the woman and told her everything. She was shocked, angry, and hurt. Together, we confronted Mr. X and his father. The woman decided to leave the congregation, and Mr. X was left to face the consequences of his actions. In the end, my dad saw the truth. He apologized for not believing in me and for thinking Mr. X deserved another chance. He handed over full control of the logistics project to me, and I've been running it successfully ever since. As for Mr. X, he's still trying to pick up the pieces of his life. His debts are still there, his reputation tarnished, and his dreams of being a big businessman are further away than ever. I've learned a lot from this whole ordeal. I've learned that I'm strong, capable, and I don't need a man to define my worth. I've learned that sometimes the best revenge is simply living well and letting the other person watch. Thank you for reading my update. My fiance's family excluded me from our wedding plans, and he cheated at his bachelor party. So I canceled the wedding and sent them the bill for wasted expenses. The situation? My fiance's dad and stepmom live about 8 hours away from us. They usually come to visit him 3 or 4 times a year. When they came to visit around the Christmas holidays, they FaceTimed with my fiance's younger sister, 32 years old, who had recently gotten engaged. She wanted to ask my fiance's son to be the ring bearer. I wasn't home when this took place. I was at work. He told me about it later, but he didn't mention when the wedding would be happening, and he didn't say anything about me being invited. In February, a save the date card arrived, addressed only to my fiancé and his son. The wedding is in May. He mentioned the card and asked me where I thought would be a good place in our area to get clothes for his son, since he's in the wedding. But once again, he didn't say anything about me being invited or ask about my schedule. I'm in nursing school and also work, and if I could come. Last week, we were out to dinner, and my fiancé started telling me about his dad calling that day. And the topic of the wedding came up. I finally asked him directly if I'm invited to this wedding at all, since my name wasn't on the save the date, and if it ever occurred to him that that's something that ought to be directly addressed, because my assumption would be that his significant other should be invited, and it felt like I'm being excluded. He told me he didn't know if I'm invited, and started to give an explanation about his weird sister and how no kids are even invited at all. And his son is a special exception because he's in the wedding. I pointed out that doesn't have anything to do with me, since I'm not a kid, and asked if it had occurred to him that since my name wasn't on the invitation, maybe he should ask, since he knows how far in advance I have to put in time off requests for my work. That's when he told me that he assumed I would still be in school. I won't. The semester ends 2 weeks before, and that if my name had been on the invitation, he would have been trying to convince me not to go. His reasons are because it would be awful for me, since his family is all weird and socially inept, and the rest of the guests are his sister's friends, so they are strangers. His family is socially inept, as obviously evidenced by the fact that none of them have thought to directly address the question of whether their son, brother's fiancé is invited to his sister's wedding. I could have resolved that by having him just ask his sister or dad. But to have him basically tell me that he doesn't want me to come, I don't even know what to do with that. Edit to answer some of the questions that were asked several times. We've been together for 5 years, engaged for almost a year, and living together since August. His family knows I exist. I met his dad for the first time about a year after we got together. It's not a small wedding, just no kids except fiancé's son, who is 10 and should not need intensive management. I don't think his ex-wife is invited, but I actually don't know for sure because that thought hadn't crossed my mind. She lives in the same town we do. The wedding is back in his home area, where his family still lives. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. There are 2 things here. One is that you clearly weren't invited, even though the family knows about your existence in his life. At the very least, a fiancé should be included as a couple. Some folks might not want to invite a boyfriend, girlfriend, or a blanket plus one. Second is that your fiancé clearly doesn't want you there. That's concerning. I'd be wondering why. Comment 2, you aren't invited because he doesn't want you there, or the family doesn't see you as a part of the family. You should be more concerned that he doesn't want you there. Info. What are the living and financial arrangements in your relationship? Is he from the area and any ex-girlfriends invited? Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around for more of this mess. So, after that dinner, things went from bad to worse. My fiance's sister, let's call her Miss Exclusive, decided to throw a curveball. She called my fiance and, out of the blue, asked if he could help with the wedding expenses. Apparently, her budget was tighter than a jar lid that won't budge. My fiance, bless his easily manipulated heart, agreed without batting an eye. And guess whose joint account he planned to dip into? Yep, ours. Now, I'm all for supporting family, but we're saving for our own wedding, and I'm in nursing school, remember? Money isn't exactly growing on trees. I told him straight up that it wasn't fair to make that decision without discussing it with me first. He got defensive, saying it was his money too, and that family comes first. I couldn't believe it. I was fuming, but I let it slide. Big mistake. A few days later, I came home to find him on the phone, laughing and joking. It was Miss Exclusive, and she was now asking him to be a part of the wedding party. The catch? The bachelor party was this weekend, and it was a destination event. He was all set to go, no questions asked. I was invisible in this equation, and it stung like a slap in the face. I had enough. I confronted him, asking why he was so eager to please his sister and completely disregard our relationship. He said I was overreacting and that I should trust him. Trust him? When he was acting like I didn't exist? I told him if he went to that bachelor party, he might as well stay there because he clearly didn't value what we had. He went anyway. And guess what? At the party, he got a little too cozy with one of Miss Exclusive's friends. The friend, feeling guilty, messaged me the next day, spilling the beans complete with pictures. There he was, my fiancé, looking a little too happy for a man whose fiancé was at home, stewing in betrayal. I was done. I packed his bags and left them outside the door. When he came back, he found the locks changed and his belongings waiting for him. He tried to apologize, said it was a mistake, that he was drunk. But I wasn't having any of it. I told him to go enjoy his sister's wedding because he clearly prioritized her over me. The aftermath was messy. His family called, demanding to know why I'd locked him out. I told them the truth. They were shocked, but I could tell some of them weren't surprised. Miss Exclusive called me, furious that I'd caused drama before her big day. I told her she could keep her wedding and her brother. I was out. But karma has a funny way of coming around. The wedding? It was a disaster. Miss Exclusive's fiancé got cold feet and bailed the morning of. The wedding was called off, and all the money my fiancé had poured into it, down the drain. He came back to me, begging for forgiveness, but I was already moving on. I focused on my studies and work, and I was better off without the drama. Thanks for reading this far. It's been a hectic ride. My partner has an emotional affair with a coworker and lies about ending it. So when we find out we're expecting, I make sure we get counseling and they quit their job to prove their loyalty. I have so many mixed feelings, I don't even know where to start. Sorry if my writing comes through as a ramble. Up to this point, I thought that our relationship, even though it had its ups and downs, did not have any fundamental flaws. But now I have some serious doubts. She told me she just came to the realization a few weeks ago that she is having an emotional affair with her coworker, 45-year-old divorced male. This is in itself absurd, by the way, and that this is unacceptable, and she has to stop. At first, she was not sure if she should tell me. She thought maybe she was going to handle this by herself, because she did not want to hurt me. But since she was behaving so differently, I confronted her and then she opened up. I'm almost sure nothing physical has happened. They weren't even flirting. It was just a vibe that made both of them feel very understood, appreciated, and happy while being together. I know about a few occasions when they went out together after work just to chat. They talked about it and they both have feelings towards each other, but agreed that this is not okay in this situation. She said she felt something that is on another level, something that she never got from me. I told her I want to see all their communications on Messenger, but this is not possible because she deleted it due to shame. I know this would be generally a red flag, but we both have above average intelligence, are mentally stable, and 99% of the time, we can work together and talk through issues. And so far, I did not have any reason at all not to trust her, so I still do. We both know what would be ideal. If we want to fight and continue with our marriage, she has to change her job. But right now, due to the nature of her job, she is a teacher, and it is very hard to find a decent school here to teach at. She is very reluctant to do that. I know this is a bad idea generally, but she promised she will cut out any personal communication with him. The problem is that guy is sitting in the same office and they inevitably meet every day. I told her she can try, but it is my gut feeling this is going to turn out to be a disaster. So I might give her an ultimatum later. I haven't decided yet, partly because first I have to put my mind straight about our marriage, if I actually want to continue it or not. Not because of the affair, but because of the problems that surfaced. I think this affair is a symptom, not a problem. She said she has been looking for reasons why she married me in the first place. But right now, she cannot see any good things. She only sees our differences. So the only reason she's staying with me right now is because she has made her vows. So she is going to keep herself to them, however much it hurts to see the prospect of another better life in front of her. She is hoping that in time, she will forget the feelings from this affair and relive the feelings she had with me back in the days. There must be something that brought us together, she said. This in itself sounds very mature and almost unbelievable to be true. I think she is thinking that way because she has some religious core beliefs and thinks that a marriage is sacred, and she loves me so much that I cannot comprehend. Yes, we were both definitely in love, but that in itself is not enough to keep the marriage together. But I'm wondering whether dedication, communication, and hard work added to the initial love is enough. Or does it only work if you have matching personal traits and matching life goals? She said I'm not putting enough emotional effort into our relationship. She feels alone, unappreciated, and a lot of times not being understood. This is the first time in 6 years that she openly said things like that. But she always felt somewhat this way. Her recent affair just made these feelings stronger. Partly I knew about this, but I did not think it was so bad. Or is it just exaggerated by her recent emotional affair? But generally, I think this is not completely my fault, because I have an avoidant attachment type, and she has the anxious one, which combination, I recently learned, is not a good idea. She said she was not mature enough when she made her choice. She saw me as an introvert, but very intelligent man, who would never be able to cheat on her. That's why she chose me. And because she did not want to be alone, she literally moved from her parents to my house, never lived alone and independently. I chose her because it felt so good that someone cares about me. I had quite low self-esteem back then, due to social isolation. She did very, very well about caring for me in those 9 years of being together. I didn't notice any of her struggles, but she also said if she had to decide now, she definitely would not choose me. So now the question arises, are we fundamentally incompatible and made a bad choice 6 years ago? Or does this idea of a sacred marriage actually work in the long term? I guess a prerequisite for that would be that both parties believe in it. But I can't believe this 100% right now. I mean, we get along very well as roommates with some extras. Sex has always been really good, but our personality is at least 80% different if you look at hobbies, interests, sense of humor, need for emotional support, spiritual views, me being an atheist, long-term plans, etc. She also said she is afraid I won't be a good father, so maybe she doesn't want babies from me at all, because I'm always alienated by babies. I mean, I'm sure I want kids, but the truth is I'm really afraid how we can handle the burdens and how I can support my wife during those hard days. I know I'm very emotionally vague, on the border of having Asperger's. That's something I just can't change. Imagine someone who is a lighter version of Sheldon Cooper. Now it's up to me to decide. She said she wants to live with me no matter what, but I don't want our relationship to be so one-sided. I think I love her, but for me, talking about my emotions and understanding them is very hard. The only way I can cry, for example, is listening to music. Thank you if you read through. Any advice or insight is appreciated. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. She said she felt something that is on another level, something that she never got from me. I got to this part and stopped. This is over, and the healthiest thing is to end it. I could not possibly go on with anyone after being told this, for so many reasons. The biggest ones being not wanting to put myself through a one-sided relationship, and because I would want my partner to be as happy as they can be. And if that's not with me, then it's not with me. Comment 2. I see two people that are no longer compatible, maybe at one time, yeah? But not anymore. You can't force a marriage or force two people to be together if they don't naturally want to be together. True love is organic, and the spark keeps the marriage going. I don't see that here. Both of you shouldn't avoid the inevitable. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around. I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything. 3 days ago, my world got flipped upside down again. I found out she's been lying to me about cutting off communication with her coworker. I overheard her on the phone with him, laughing like I haven't heard in years. It felt like a punch to the gut. I confronted her and she broke down, admitting she couldn't do it, couldn't cut him out. She said it was like an addiction, his attention, the way he understood her. I was furious, felt betrayed. I wanted to scream, to throw things, but I just stood there, feeling like a fool. I thought about leaving, about ending it all right there. But then she did something unexpected. She quit her job. Just like that, she handed in her resignation. Said she couldn't trust herself around him and that our marriage was more important. I was stunned. It was a bold move, one that left us in a financial mess, but it showed me she was serious. The next day, we were a mess of emotions. She was panicking about her decision, worried about finding another job. I was still hurt, but also impressed by her commitment. We argued, we cried, and in the middle of that chaos, she dropped another bomb. She's pregnant. We'd been trying for a while, and now, with everything so uncertain, she was terrified. I didn't know how to feel, happy, scared, angry. It was a mix of all three. We were going to be parents, but our marriage was hanging by a thread. That night, we barely slept, both lost in our thoughts. Yesterday, we had a long talk. She apologized for everything, said she never meant to hurt me. She was ashamed of her actions, jealous of the connection she felt with him, something she thought we had lost. I was resentful, but seeing her so vulnerable, so desperate to make things right, it did something to me. I decided to forgive her, not because it was the easy thing to do, but because I realized that holding on to that anger would only poison what was left of us. It made me look weak, maybe even desperate, but I couldn't let go of the life we had built together, not without trying to fix it first. We're in a rough spot, no doubt about it, but we've got a baby on the way, and if that's not a reason to fight for our marriage, I don't know what is. We're going to start counseling, try to work through our issues. It's going to be hard, but maybe, just maybe, we can come out of this stronger. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.